The national debt stands currently at about $36.2 trillion, and every day, the U.S. spends about $2.6 billion paying the interest on that debt.
China is in a massive debt crisis, and things are looking really bad for the CCP.
Hello everyone. The topic which we have chosen today is from whom actually does countries, or in that case governments, borrow to accumulate huge debts. You heard it right, debt. So first just understand what is a debt. So before that, whatever we are mentioning here as debt is national debt. That is nothing but the money the government borrows. So technically a national debt is the currency it has effectively put into circulation in its jurisdiction, in its own domain, in its own legal tender, means currency, USD, INR, whatever. In its way, it's essential if its local economy is to work. Too much complicated, right? So simply it is nothing but if you want to run the economy, you need money. So that money is required. So they float a debt, a loan. So they borrow from others and they give out an interest rate. So there forms a debt from thin air, wherein the government gets the money, they utilizes that for capex or other spending, government fiscal spending, and on a term basis, they pay out the interest rate throughout the period of that debt, whether short or long term debts. So simply speaking, national debt is nothing but the world money supply. Now getting back to the topic, you are hearing that US has reached its highest debt ever of $36 trillion. So countries like huge economies, largest economy like US, China, everybody is having debt. Well, in that case, every country in the world is having debt. So whom they own this debt? Whom are they borrowing from this money? The public debt, as I told, it's a government debt. So global public debt is more than 102 trillion dollar. So if you park aside $36 trillion, which is of US debt, still you have more than 64 to 65 trillion dollar, which is taken by other countries. So after US comes China, which is around 15-16 trillion dollar debt. Then comes Japan, around $11 trillion, UK 3.5 to 3.6 trillion dollar, France 3.4 trillion dollar, Italy 3.1 3.2 trillion dollar, India around 3 trillion dollar. This is tentatively around 2024. If you see currently, it will be something around 3.3 to 3.4 trillion dollar, because every year the debt increases, right? So the GDP also increases, the debt also increases. So economy grows, so you need more debt. So that's obvious. So US was having last year 29 trillion, now it is 36 trillion. So it is growing, GDP is growing. So obviously the debt also, the GDP will be probably serviced by the debt as well. So it is obvious. But we have already discussed earlier that the debt to GDP ratio of US is 123 to 125%, wherein India is just 82 to 83%. So our debt levels are much lower compared to US. If you see, China is also around 85% debt to GDP ratio. China, if you see, it is around 256% because of the aging population, because of very stagnant economy, because of the GDP is not growing. So the debt is almost there and the GDP is not growing. So the ratio has become very high for Japan. Now the $1 million question, who owes this debt? If you see, 1/8 of US debt, which is around $4 trillion, is owned by central banks of other countries. So normally central banks, like our central bank is RBI, India's central bank is RBI, US central bank is Federal Reserve. So RBI borrows or takes or buys these treasury bills, which is the bonds or the debt floated by the US, and then they get interest rate from US. So this is considered to be one of the safe havens wherein US will not default. So you will get back your amount which you have lent to US, for which you are getting a decent amount of interest rate. But if you see, other than 1/8, rest is completely held. The rest of US debt is completely held by private. Basically, it is in private circulation. Same with UK, it is 1/6 of is only held by other nations' central bank. France and Germany, only 20% of that is held by other nations' central banks. Japan, if you see, there is no foreign debt. Complete debt is held internally either by Japanese government or by private firms or private individuals within the nation. So if you see, 80% of total global debt is owned mainly by private institutions or private individuals or organizations. So who are these private? Even you and me can be private, because our PF, our NPS, all these things, pension funds to be more clear. So these pension funds, where are they investing? Majority are invested in bonds like this. Bonds is nothing but the debt which is floated by various countries through their national debt. So we are holding that. So we are holding, in the sense it is actually held by wealth management institutions, pension funds, or this life insurance, large organizations like that, wherein majority of the wealthy people's wealth is handled by these people. So if there is no debt, there is no danda, there is no business for these organizations or firms. So debt is in fact required by this organization to mainly run their business as well. That's internal, that's the other part of it, other than using that money from debt for running the country. If you see, 1% of the total world's population owns majority of assets in the whole world. Assets are, as you already know, if you are subscribed to my channel, assets are those things which generate cash flow, continuous cash flow. Assets are something which puts money into your pocket, and liability is something which takes out money out of your pocket. Very clear. I'm sure that you are clear on that. So when government creates debt, somebody has to own it, right? And the majority of this is held by wealthy. No doubt in that. So this wealthy holds this debt. They get decent interest payout. They again generate wealth out of the debt given to them. Then they reinvest this money again into debt. So this money multiplying effect happens at the cost of countries' interest payment. Also, you have got tax cuts. This is not highly taxed. These debt funds are not highly taxed. So you get tax cuts also. But then who is getting this benefit? The wealthy is getting this benefit. So this actually is not democratized. It is actually held by major private firms and private holdings, and this was supposed to be democratized, and the public should have got this, because the money which is taken from the debt by the government is used to run the welfare of the public only, for their upliftment, for the country's economic upliftment, which is nothing but the common man. But what is happening? The money which is borrowed, the interest is paid to wealthy individuals, unfortunately or fortunately. So if there is no debt, major insurance companies, major wealth management firms and such pension funds will be out of business, because they get the commission cuts of managing wealthy people's money by putting their investments into these debt funds, which are safe havens without any default, because the national government won't have a default, right? Unlike private organizations, wherein they take a debt and the company can go broke and the money can vanish, which will not happen in case of national debt, wherein India, US, all those are trustworthy countries. So they will definitely repay the debt. So to conclude, who holds the major debt in the world? It is no one else but the wealthy. So now you know that public debt is not a problem. It can increase. The money has to be borrowed for the country to progress. So debt can increase, not beyond a point. Like India, we have got 83% debt to GDP ratio. So that is a healthy figure. US, it is very high, 123%. But still, debt can be increased, but it has to be democratized, just like Japan, wherein complete debt interest payment is going to the people or organization within the country, Japanese government or Japanese private individuals or Japanese public population. So it is going within the country. Mainly it is democratized. But other countries, if you see, it is held, the debt is given by wealthy individuals and they are making money. And as I told, it is highly tax efficient. So not even they are getting good tax cuts. So this results in unequal wealth distribution within the world. So now I think it is very clear for you that who actually who actually services the debt, who gives money to the government to run the country, and then who is getting benefited from this debt. It is not just the public, the normal public, but the wealthy is getting benefited from this. Hope this session was clear to you. If you have any doubts or clarifications, you please feel free to comment in the comment box. Do like and subscribe if you like the content which we are putting. See you in next video. Till then, happy investing.